Android users, you can now have TYT in the palm of your hand. Our TYT app is available for download in the Google Play Store. Just go to tyt.com/app to find out more.
Donald Trump has officially imposed or reimposed sanctions on Iran, and he did drop out of the Iran nuclear deal. Although European allies are still very much in favor of that nuclear deal, they are still hoping that Iran complies with it, and they have condemned the United States for pulling out. Now, with that said, the sanctions would not only go after Iran, but also go after other countries that continue to do business with Iran. And China has responded to that by saying, we don't care, we will still do business with Iran because the fact of the matter is the United Nations is still behind this nuclear deal. So a statement from the Chinese Foreign Ministry states that China's business dealings with Iran comply with all United Nations sanctions currently applied to Iran, and that the country would ignore new measures implemented by the United States. Now, this is already bad when it comes to US-China relations, but you also have to take it into the context of this trade war that we're currently engaged in, which continues to get worse. And I'll give you examples of why and how in just a minute. But China's commercial cooperation with Iran is open and transparent, reasonable and fair, not violating any United Nations Security Council resolutions. China's lawful rights should be protected, and that's according to an official statement from the Chinese Foreign Ministry.
The Chinese are totally right about this. I think that in terms of trade, there are many things that they are wrong about, and I think there's a smart way to handle that. I certainly don't agree with their government's view of how to rule China overall because it's not a democracy. These things are super obvious, but in regards to this, they are right. So America was not the only country that did the deal with Iran. There was many other countries involved, Europe, Russia, etc. And all those countries remained in the deal. And they all said, even though there are allies, most of them are, they said, no, this deal was a really good deal and we stopped Iran's nuclear program. We are not going to back out of it. America is wrong for backing out of it. And so we're going to continue. Now, when America backed out of it, we said, okay, we're going to continue to do sanctions on Iran and we're going to add sanctions on Iran. Okay, that's our prerogative. I think that's a terrible idea. And Donald Trump did it largely because of two factors. One, Obama made the deal, so he wanted to rip it up to go ha-ha, because he's a child. And number two, because now the neocons have started running his administration and they desperately want war with Iran. So guys like John Bolton are like, oh, you got to rip it up. Show them how tough you are, boss. Show them how tough you are. Rip up the deal. So, okay, now we're saying, okay, not only are we going to do sanctions on Iran, but we are going to sanction everyone who does business with Iran. Okay, it's one thing when you're right, it's another thing when you're wrong. So when you go try to bully the entire world on an issue they are positive you are wrong about, and they're correct, by the way, well, that's not going to end well. It's one, the wrong thing to do, but two, what do you think? Like, Trump thinks he could single-handedly bully the entire world, including China, that has enormous leverage over us. They hold so much of our debt, let alone other parts of this, right? They're like, no, we're not going to go along, you schmuck. What did you think we were going to do? We were just going to bow our heads? Our answer is no. Now go take a long walk off a short American dock.
This goes to show you that the United States doesn't have the same kind of power that maybe it used to have. It doesn't have as much leverage over other countries, more powerful countries like China. And so Trump is under the impression that we're number one and that we can bully other countries into doing everything that we want them to do. But that is not the case, and that's the way that it's actually playing out in the opposite direction with China specifically. So that's the smaller point. The bigger point is, for the first time ever, it's become abundantly clear that with or without the United States, internationally speaking, the show goes on, right? And the show must go on. So when it comes to this trade war, all of a sudden, we're seeing countries that had no interest in doing business with one another getting together, circumventing the United States and trading with each other instead. And so
it's a disaster.
It's a disaster for the United States, that's for sure. It's a disaster for our economy, among other things that Trump is doing to our economy. But ironically, it might have a positive impact for world peace.
Well,
maybe.
But look, we are greatly endangering our economy.
Yes.
So it's easy for the right wing to say, how dare you say China's right? Don't you know that
America
is always right, right?
No,
But you're not getting it. We're going to hurt America if we get into a trade war with the entire world. And then if they decide, hey, you know what? It turns out America's power was illusory, that it wasn't real. And so maybe we could just stop using the dollar as the main currency in the world, and we just switch over to currency from anywhere in the world, Europe, et cetera, right? The euro.
Disaster.
Then we're really, really screwed.
Yes.
So we're trying to look out for America by telling Trump, iceberg straight ahead. Get out of the way, get out of the way. And he's like, I got this. And he goes around now, he says, oh, China's stock market is doing poorly because we're winning the trade war. The Chinese stock market had already started dipping. It has nothing to do with the trade war. It has to do with the corporate debt that they are cutting and other influences. You think the Chinese market went down 27% because of the tariffs? Our markets are hurt way more than theirs are by the tariffs.
Can I give you some examples of that? So the US trade deficit has actually increased. It climbed $3 billion to $46.3 billion in June.
What happened? I thought you were going to fix it.
Yep, and that's according to the US Commerce Department. And remember, Trump also is going to bail out the farmers who are going to be negatively impacted by this trade war. And he keeps saying, hold on, I got it. You guys are being impatient. I have a plan. But what is your plan? Because so far, your only plan is to respond to retaliation with more tariffs. And you think that at some point, China's going to cave and say, all right, whatever, we're going to give you what you want. But it doesn't appear that that's the case.
They're not going to do that. And so understand that even the things he wanted to accomplish, he's not doing. So you have the terrible consequences of the tariffs, but if at least you brought down the trade deficit, he could have a fig leaf and go, well, okay, I destroyed the economy, but I brought down the trade deficit. He didn't even do that. The trade deficit went up in June by $3 billion, and now economists say it's also going up in July. So he goes, and what he says is that the tariffs are working big time.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Chinese in return said, oh yeah?
Show me the batuk.
Okay.
Yeah, despite the tariffs, China's exports are expected to have grown in July.
Oops.
They're doing fine, and it's because they're just going around us and making deals with other countries. By the way, we're also entire companies are now shutting down because of the tariffs. It's a very it's a neglected story in my opinion, but I'll give you an example of one of the latest companies, small company. Element Electronics is laying off 126 employees and shuttering its plant in the town of Winnsboro, South Carolina. The plant said that the closure is due to new tariffs that were recently and unexpectedly imposed on many goods imported from China, including the key television components used in our assembly operations in Winnsboro.
He's costing Americans a lot of jobs. And finally, I like how the daily newspaper of the Chinese, obviously sanctioned by the government, said that Trump is a Street Fighter style, okay, well that sounds pretty fun, it sounds good, deceitful drama of extortion and intimidation. And they said that he treats the truth with elasticity.
That's a very good way of
That's a polite way of saying he's a liar. It's a polite way of saying,
show me the batuk.
It's very poetic too.
I know, right? 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.